Hey, welcome back to Season 5 of Porcelain Peak, a strange and scary podcast featuring Chop Talk trivia and deep dive main discussions into the odd and unusual. I'm one of your hosts, Tone, and per usual, I'm joined by
John
and
Internet Daddy Anthony.
Yeah, this week for Chop Talk, we're going to share some industry news, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good enough. Then we're going to play trivia. We got a new game for you. And for our main discussion, we are wrapping up anime, talking about Belle.
Yeah.
So if that sounds
We got a really good show.
we're interested, and we're going to get started with that Chop Talk. Chop, 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 chop.
Why don't you take an axe and chop it open?
Before we dive into that news, in between bouts of Zelda, how you guys been doing?
I've been doing Zelda. No, I know we did a bunch of Zelda talk last week, but we did get a comment on our YouTube
Okay, right on.
from I think one of your friends, but saying that they appreciated the Zelda talk. But yeah,
It's hot right now. That Zelda's so hot right now.
Yeah.
Well, I saw you guys playing it on the TV when I walked in today, and I was like, that's funny because I have not once played on TV, because what I've found I love, like my problem with video games for the longest time has been I'll be playing a video game and also I want to be constantly watching movies. So now I've just been doing both.
I tried to do that with Belle, and I got about 40 minutes in, and I was like, I have no idea what's going on. So I couldn't do it.
I won't do it with stuff that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
I've only been doing it with, like, I rewatched Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull to get ready for the new one, and I was like, well, I've seen these before, and that's what I was saying. Like, when Indy was looking at the different numbers on the pillars in the church in Last Crusade and solving that whole puzzle and everything, I was like, dude, I'm Indiana Jones when I play Zelda.
Magnesis, bro.
How you been?
I've been doing well. I've been working, obviously, but I've also been trying to squeeze in small moments where I can play Tears of the Kingdom. I found out today I'm nowhere near as far in the game as you are, but
I had a lot of free time, yeah.
But it is what it is.
I have
enjoying
more
the
free
ride.
time and no family, so.
I'm just enjoying the ride.
All right, news. Hit us. Tina Turner died today.
So that I mean, you got ahead of me, but that was going to be in my in memoriam section.
Yeah.
It's the way that you
Just the way, because usually I'll do like and then we end with the sad news, and I talk about who's passed away, and you're just like, y'all hear Tina Turner died?
right off the ripski, bro.
Yeah, you lead with the bad, then it only gets better.
Okay, well, we'll do that then. Yes, Tina
yeah.
Turner did pass away.
Who we talked about recently from...
Beyond Thunderdome?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also earlier this week, Ray Stevenson, surprisingly, in his 50s, passed away. Crazy.
The Punisher Warzone.
The Punisher, he was also in the Thor movies as one of Thor's buddies.
Oh, really?
He
Hang around, pals.
He's in the new Ahsoka show. He's one of the like Sith or Dark Jedi guys or
good for
whatever.
him. Good for him.
He's been in a bunch of Star Wars voices and everything. So a lot of people have a lot of love for him, and yeah, it was super sad. I had never seen him in a bunch, but you know what? I think I'm gonna go watch Punisher Warzone in his honor.
I think he punches through a guy's face at one point.
Well, that's dope enough for me. I'm sold.
That's all I remember.
On to some more positive news, though. I have a few small things, and then we can talk about the big industry news from the week.
But does he have all the
I think
small
so.
things?
Small things. So, in the continuing trend of
the stairs.
taking Disney properties and turning them into horror versions, we are apparently getting a Cinderella's Curse movie, a gory horror retelling of Cinderella.
Well, I feel like that more fits because the actual Cinderella story is pretty horrific.
Most of those grim fairy tales are like pretty
Yeah.
fucked up. Yeah, because it was supposed to be about scaring kids into not doing
Like the sisters
don't-
cut their
yeah,
feet.
yeah, don't
to fit
cut
into
your
the
feet off.
slippers and shit. Like it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm on board with that.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna watch it. I haven't watched the Winnie the Pooh one, and I probably won't watch the Peter Pan one. But hey,
I didn't know there was a
more
Peter Pan
power.
one.
Yeah, it's coming up. Apparently, Tinkerbell is supposed to be like an overweight drug addict or some stupid shit.
And the Grink one.
And the Grink one, yeah, I forgot about
The
that.
Grink.
I sent this to you guys, but in our continuing coverage of Beetlejuice news, set photos were released of Winona Ryder as Lydia Dietz 36 years later, and she looks exactly the fucking same. A lot of people have a problem with that. I'm like, really? It doesn't matter. Goth is not a phase. Okay.
Yeah.
And also, if you met the ghost with the most as a kid,
And he tried to marry you.
and he tried to marry you, and you
And
watched
now-
your parents, or not your parents, but you watched Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis get like emaciated into corpses.
Yeah, and your guardians are ghosts.
Yeah. You'd probably grow up to be a little bit fucked up. But
People are mad that she looks the same.
yeah, because she has the same hairstyle and she's all dressed in black or whatever. But it's like, really, would you be dressing the same 36 years later? And it's like, also, it's
Kind of.
fucking Beetlejuice. If she looked different, you'd complain. It's just people complaining.
People like to complain.
Yeah. So I haven't checked out the trailer for this yet, but a lot of people are super excited for it. And it's a new sci-fi thing that is an original property. Gareth Edwards, who did Rogue One, he is coming out with his own original sci-fi property called The Creator. And from what people are saying from the trailer, it's basically like if he just took the style from Rogue One and made it not Star Wars. And I really like the style of Rogue One. I think it's a gorgeous movie, and for its faults, the visuals were not one of those. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to check out the trailer and see what that's all about. And then in the last bit of positive news that I have, Ted Raimi is producing and starring in a new one-take horror movie called Failure, about a man who I think he's given like an ultimatum where he has to kill people or something happens to him, and so he's beating people up with hammers and shit.
Classic.
And it's Ted Raimi, and I'm just excited to see him in another horror thing.
Yeah.
That he's gonna be like the lead in. That's weird, and not like some ghoul in the background, like in a bunch of makeup, just like literally sweating out the sides of it.
The last thing I saw him in, I think, was he was one of the characters in one of the most recent like Dark Pictures anthology video games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was like a police officer.
Yeah, I know he's done stuff for the Evil Dead game, and I think he might have been in one of the more recent Creep shows that was like an Evil Dead homage. But for the big industry news, we talked a lot about similar stuff to this, but Disney Plus has made a lot of big moves for cost cutting in the last week and announced a huge list of properties that they are removing from their site.
What?
Including Willow, which came out the TV series, which came out less than 6 months ago.
It tanked hard, right?
Yeah, but a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into that, and now they are just completely pulling it, and it doesn't have a physical release or anything, so you'll have to pirate it if you want to see it. And I'm not really nervous about saying that anymore. I know in the past we've always been like, yeah, we would never do something like that, but these streaming services don't really give you much of an option anymore if you are wanting to watch something. So yeah, that plus a bunch of other projects. There's a whole list that you can look into.
What does that do? Why pull it? How does that?
They don't have to pay
Royalties,
residuals.
Yeah.
Oh.
Residuals, yeah. They don't have to pay people anymore. So basically,
Disney is running out of money.
right? What happens is
No, the executives aren't making they're not making more money year over year, and for executives that's a death sentence for their careers. So for them, they would rather cut costs and fire people rather than take pay cuts to make sure that bottom line.
because they got to
continues
make sure
move
that
up.
they keep making their $1 billion bonuses every year and impressing the investors. Meanwhile, making the shittiest, just completely tanking their streaming services. Everyone's doing it, but Disney has just been a big recent offender. HBO, we talked about.
I mean,
weeks ago.
Drop the HBO because it's just Max now.
I'm just gonna keep calling it HBO.
I think most people will, but yeah. So yeah, that's a big thing that they are in hot water for now. A lot of sad, rightfully so, creators coming out on social media and stuff and saying like, yeah, it really fucking sucks that I put a lot of my heart and soul and blood and sweat and tears into this project.
Anything
and
else that was like?
Nothing that really stood out to me, like the life according to Jeff Goldblum or whatever that show they're
like that
taking
show.
off,
Yeah.
and yeah, a lot of smaller shows, smaller movies, but in terms of like big projects, they're not really getting rid of anything that
It's just
I personally cared about, but it's just the principle of the matter.
That was the part of the appeal of Disney Plus was they had such a vast library because of all of their movies, because of Star Wars, because of the Marvel, because of the Fox. It was a lot of good stuff too.
The problem that we've been everybody's been talking about this forever now is that the bubble was going to burst at some point. You couldn't just be hemorrhaging money constantly putting out a million new shows and things on your platform forever. Eventually it was going to start getting to a point where you needed to start cutting things in order to not be losing money.
And I think that's what happened to Netflix.
Yeah.
It was just new show.
And I'm sure that's why they're canceling stuff as constantly as they are now, is because they realized that they could not maintain literally just going constantly into the red.
And that's not even just with American shows. They're doing it with a lot of foreign shows too.
Yeah. I mean, with Disney, I mean, I think that the biggest thing for them is that they are in a spot where they maybe over-indexed into like aiming at people's nostalgia. And for something like Willow, I mean, Willow didn't really have a cult. I mean, it had a cult following, but it didn't have like a big following. But there were some people. There are some people who are nostalgic for it, and so they made content about it. But I think they underestimated the potential audience there, or that anyone would care that long after the original property had been released. But for something like Star Wars or Marvel, not only can they release the content, but when they release the content, they can make new toys and new other stuff. So it constantly funnels the machine. Whereas something like Willow doesn't funnel the machine.
But also, how many times have there been cases of a show where the first season doesn't really hit with people, and then it picks up its stride in the second
Parks
season?
and Rec is one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like Parks and Rec is a show that 100% would not have gone anywhere if it came out today, or The Office, because they both had rough first seasons, and they would have immediately gotten canceled after that, and we never would have seen some of the most influential shows. Pretty much Twin Peaks, pretty much every show that has anything slightly interesting or weird or groundbreaking about it, it's just like, nope, that costs way too much money, and it's not immediately in the first 6 months, it's not immediately blowing.
Not everything is the first season of Stranger Things.
Yeah, and if it's not, then good luck getting a second season. Kind of in line with that, some news came out that there's apparently a complete Alien versus Predator anime series that was created, animated, voice acted, everything. I don't know how much voice acting is in an Alien and Predator thing, but completely made. This was around the time between Prometheus and Covenant coming out, and before the Shane Black's Predator came out. And it's just apparently been sitting in the Disney vault for years now. And some of the creators have been coming out and saying, like, yeah, there's a really badass Alien versus Predator anime that you will probably never see, because when Disney bought 20th Century Fox and those rights switched over, they shelved it, and it's just sitting somewhere.
Wow.
It's so weird.
I wonder why.
It's
people love those properties, and people like anime. Like, there's a big audience for those two things specifically.
Yeah, and it's like, how are we getting a Fede Alvarez Alien movie and a Noah Hawley Alien show, but you're not going to put out the Alien versus Predator anime?
Also, after Prey came out, was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I don't even try to make fucking sense out of this stuff anymore.
Don't put it on Disney Plus, but put it on Hulu. Like, it would fucking do gangbusters on Hulu.
I loved Prey. I wish that we could have watched it in theaters, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was rad.
And then this is just a little factoid that I read that a lot of people have been using as a, hey, this has happened before, and this is why you should buy physical media, which would be nice if a lot of this stuff had physical media releases. But it's from the Wikipedia article on silent films, and it says that 75% of all silent films made have been lost forever. So 10,919 American silent films were produced back in the day, and only a little less than 3,000 of them have survived to the modern day. Most of them in either 35 millimeter versions, foreign releases, or low quality bootleg copies.
Wow.
So people are just talking about how, like, these things can just disappear forever. Like, even with the internet being around, like, they can disappear forever.
That's why it's good that there are like internet restoration companies and things like that. I know that there was a similar thing with Nintendo and the Wii U and 3DS eShops. Like, there were a ton of games that were created for those consoles that you just can't get anymore because they closed the eShops down. So without being able to purchase those games, and some of them got no physical release, they're gone. So Gerard the Completionist and some other people went in together and went out on a mission for the last year or so to basically purchase every single game from both of those eShops. And it was like a $20,000 or $30,000 endeavor of them getting all of these games downloaded legally and then giving them over to a gaming historian type of thing. where they
Like
keep
an archivist or something.
basically, yeah, and they just keep an archive of all these games to for preservation's sake, to make sure that those things aren't just lost to the ether and never can be played again.
That's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you treat it like art, like it is, which the people in charge don't see it as art, they just see it as content and money
potentially.
But if you see it as art, then it makes sense to be passionate about preserving it and keeping it around, because that's
why we are.
Yeah, and that's the thing with all of this stuff is like, yeah, I don't personally care about most of the stuff that's leaving Disney Plus or those Nintendo games, but I care about the idea that there were lots of people that worked on all of those things who, in a lot of cases now, are not going to make any money off of all of it, and that's years of people's lives. And the biggest news of the week, that's kind of all within this big conversation about corporations making terrible, nonsensical decisions. HBO Max officially rebranded to just Max yesterday.
Made you download a whole new ass application for it, which is pretty fucking
cool.
cool.
So a lot of people were, so I had thought that potentially the backlash was just like, Twitter is the place to go if you want to see the most negative opinions on any news or anything that's coming out. So I went to HBO or Max's Instagram page and went to like their most recent posts about switching over to Max, and there is not a single positive comment. Like, it's all people just saying like, you're fucking idiots. Like, HBO has been a household name and brand for decades.
It has home in the in the abbreviation.
Home box office.
Yeah, and it's like, you fucking idiots. HBO was the brand, not Max. And also, Max is so generic and vague that I was even curious how they were going to get an Instagram handle, and the way they did that was it's Stream on Max. And I'm like,
that's hella dumb.
Yeah, it used to be HBO Max, and it was fine.
I don't even know Max.
Yeah,
who the fuck is Max, brother?
Yeah, and then you open the app and it's the exact same thing. So I'm like, why didn't you just change the?
It's like, oh, and you even took your one unique thing about having a purple icon, and you're like, nope, we're going to be blue, like every other streaming service out besides Netflix. I did see somebody tweet today, Brian McCauley, at Brian McWriter, said, still can't believe HBO Max rebranded as Max when Maximum HBO Overdrive was right there for the taking.
This is why we need writers. Support the writers' strike.
Speaking of physical media, though,
yeah,
I got The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Yeah?
On Steelbook.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's out. It's not in here, but it has a slipcover over it, and so the cover is Bowie's face, and it has his like regular human eyes, and the slipcover pulls up, and it's a lightning bolt,
eyes,
and then underneath the lightning bolt is his special eye.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I was like, that's really cool. So
I don't really.
That was a gift I got.
I don't really collect movies physically anymore, but that might be one I'll have to.
I mean, really, it's just
try to
Steelbooks.
get.
If they have dope covers.
Yeah,
that's my thing. Because then it's another piece of art, like it's another form of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And usually you can figure out who the artist is who did that art. And yeah,
but the same thing with like us, and like all of us collect vinyl. I mean,
yeah. You mentioned the strike. So one of the things that people immediately noticed when they downloaded Max yesterday is that when you go into the credits on all of the projects, it no longer lists like director, writer as individual credits.
It also says creator.
It says creators. And so some of the examples were like Donnie Darko, Richard Kelly, the writer-director, is listed like 6th in the credits of creators. And basically, people got really angry about this because it seems like another move by these streamers to not have to recognize the individual creators, and almost like it was an intentional thing. Like, well, fuck you, writers. If you're going to strike, we're just not even going to credit you as a writer. We're just going to put you all under creators. Like, it's just more content.
They're going to lose this when the reality well goes dry. There's only so much reality content that people can ingest.
I'm convinced they're going to roll back pretty much all of this within the next probably year or so. I'm sure that this is going to go back to being called HBO within a year, if not like a couple of years, because there's just no indication that this was there was any reason to do this. Like, what? And literally their tagline is Max, the one to watch for HBO. It's like, yeah, we got that when it was called HBO Max.
I like the HBO Max because outside of it being Cinemax, it's like HBO, but like the maximum. Like, to me, that's what it was. You know what I mean? Not just like the channel that you have to go and watch straight.
Well, and if you look historically back at rebrandings, at logo changes, at all these things, aside from like in the sphere that we're in, low, like small creators,
Average size.
the general consensus.
Oh, you fucker.
Is just that most people don't like when things get rebranded. And I know that being the one to watch for HBO is like the stepping stool to keep people engaged until they remove it.
Mm-hmm. You partner them, and then you drop it.
Yeah. But it's still, like, people are still going to hate it.
It's just like Comcast and Xfinity. It's
Yeah.
not Comcast anymore. It's just Xfinity now. But they did that for a while. They put them together. It was Comcast Xfinity.
Yeah.
And then they slowly dropped off the
It's
Comcast.
because they wanted to remove the negative stigma of being Comcast because people fucking hated Comcast.
I still hate Comcast. And I still call it Comcast. Because it's still the same shit.
But I don't think anybody has like a burning hatred for HBO as a brand.
No, I don't think so. I
s-
like HBO.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about it last time. It's like that to me meant you were getting a quality adult show.
Well, a lot of people are saying that this is also
You
just
know how much you like a quality adult show.
I do.
this is well, I'm about to talk about that. So this is like the worst timing for them too, because this Sunday, 2 of their most successful shows in recent years are ending. Barry and Succession are both ending this Sunday, and their next like big project is the guy who did Euphoria has a new show with The Weeknd called The Idol, and it's getting absolutely smashed by critics who saw it at Cannes. It has like a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ooh.
And people are like coming out and saying how much of a fucking creep Sam Levinson is. Like,
Is that the creator?
the guy, yeah, because of how he just constantly writes stuff about like underage girls, like and really risque. I mean, if you've seen Euphoria, which I've seen both seasons, like
Yeah. Well, a lot of it's like teen on teen stuff.
yeah, but
It's
people
still like, why does an adult need to be talking?
yeah, people are looking back at it and saying like, yeah, he's kind of just airing out all of his weird kinks like in his shows. But anyway, the result of this whole creator thing is that the DGA, the Directors Guild of America, came out with a statement today, immediately denouncing that what Max had done and saying, for almost 90 years, the Directors Guild has fought fiercely to protect the credit and recognition deserved by directors for the work they create. Warner Brothers Discovery's unilateral move without notice or consultation to collapse directors, writers, producers, and others into a generic category called creators in their new Max rollout, while we are in negotiations with them, is a grave insult to our members and our union. This devaluation of the individual contributions of artists is a disturbing trend, and the DGA will not stand for it. We intend on taking the strongest possible actions in solidarity with the Writers Guild of America to ensure every artist receives individual credit they deserve. So Max basically teed up a director strike, and there have been news articles out recently saying that it has never happened before, but there is a pretty decent chance that we are going to have a triumvirate of strikes with the Screen Actors Guild, the Writers Guild, and the Directors Guild striking.
What is the difference between the screen actors and the writers?
Well, screen actors are actors.
Oh, screen actors.
Yeah, screen actors.
Okay.
Writers, yeah.
For some reason, when screenwriters, I was like, that's the same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Really?
Yeah.
Are the actors talking about striking? Mm-hmm. Or that's happening?
Well, basically, because all of this stuff is affecting everybody else's projects too, and it's not like the actors were, getting those residuals they deserved and stuff. Like, it's affecting everybody.
Yeah.
And
I think that's what happened with ScarJo, right? And all the Black Widow stuff. Like, she wasn't getting the money.
She got
that
fucked
she
because they had an agreement about the money she was supposed to make on the back end from a theatrical release, and then they were like, well, that doesn't count anymore because it went straight to streaming. And she was like, yeah, but that wasn't the deal. And you fucked me. And you're blaming COVID for it, and then making me sound like a bad guy for being upset about it, and then everybody going like, it's the same argument that idiot fucking people are doing right now, which is, oh, well, they're just rich people complaining about being rich. And like I said before, it's like these writers, some of them, like the person who created and wrote The Bear, like I said, the most successful show last year on Hulu FX, couldn't afford rent. So it's like these people are not rolling in dough. They're not the ones rolling in dough. It's the people up top who don't do any of the work and don't make any of the creative decisions are just like a line in the pockets.
But whether or not you are rich, if you have a deal with somebody, like in the Scarlett Johansson case, like you had a deal. And if you are going to go back on that or change it, then that's not my fault.
There needs to be another deal that's put in
Yeah.
place, and it needs to be equitable.
No matter what the situation is. But yeah, this sucks. That'd be great. I mean, just like an entertainment shutdown, which sounds wild to me, but you gotta do what you gotta do. I respect it.
I'm all for it.
Or-
Because at the end of the day, I'm like, it's not like I don't have shit to watch. Like, I'm not going to be upset because to me, what's more important is that artists get treated fairly.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and get the pay that they deserve so that they continue making amazing things. Like, I don't want to see a future where AI is writing the scripts for everything that's on these streaming services.
Or it's all reality TV.
Yeah, I want more shows like Succession and Barry and
Mr. Robot.
Mr. Robot, and
Breaking
all this
Bad.
stuff where it's like
Yeah.
a creator's vision and a bunch of talented writers and actors and directors. It's just like, why? Yeah, it's what you said earlier. It doesn't make any fucking sense, and
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around why any sane human being. But it's the thing I said earlier about like that's what it's like to live in a capitalist society. To get on my soapbox about that is just art doesn't matter. It's just about how do we squeeze the most money out of the people down here to make the people up here, the 5 or 6 people up here, as rich as humanly fucking possible. Inhumanly possible.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was a loaded chop talk. Like a loaded potato of a chop talk.
But we got new trivia, so let's go ahead and transition to something a little bit more fun. John?
That Christmas house of wax, the fog, piranha. It's one of those, right? Right?
Diving straight into trivia, the new game is called Movies Trivia Game.
Not movie, but movies.
Pretty straightforward. Pick this bad boy up today. So there are 4 categories. And
This is why we need writers in Hollywood, is to come up with less generic names for our movie trivia games.
It's very straightforward. All right, so the categories are comedy animation, action and adventure, drama musical, and horror sci-fi, which is perfect for us. So we are branching out a little bit from our typical game, but same format. We'll read a question and a circle. With me to John, John to Anthony, and Anthony back to me, and we're doing 2 cards.
The old trivia circle jerk.
Yeah.
All right, John, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Who plays the Crown Prince of Zamunda in Coming to America? For your comedy animation question.
Comedy animation question, eh? Would that be an Edward Murphy?
Maybe. I don't know his first name.
Is it Eddie Murphy?
Yeah.
Could be Edmund.
Could be. It could be
Be a
Edmund
Willard
Murphy.
Smith situation.
Yeah. Coolest guy on the planet named Willard. Anthony, who plays the long-nosed seedy Bales in Roxanne?
Jesus.
Roxanne.
You don't have to put on the red light. Know the song. Don't know the movie. The long-nosed, what was the name?
C.D. Bales. CD's nuts.
In Roxanne.
I think it has like a black cover and it's him on it like this. Or the person on it.
Jimmy Kahn.
It's
Corn.
Steve Martin, the dentist himself.
Damn. Well, I take back what I said about cake. This is the opposite of cake. Tone. Where does The Descendants take place?
Oh. Is that Hawaii?
It is indeed Hawaii.
All right. Woo, 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 woo. At the end of round 1, John and I are on the board, and we are moving into action and adventure. John, what Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt film is also known as Live, Die, Repeat?
Oh God, I only know it as Live Die Repeat. What's the name? Oh God, it's a name.
Wow. You're really pushing the envelope.
You're kind of a human genius.
It's 2
You're
words.
really a dog genius.
It's 2 words.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
More or less.
Literally. It's 3 words.
Okay.
It's Edge of Tomorrow.
That is correct, sir. Good job. Whew,
Yeah.
I don't count the article.
Yeah, fair enough.
Edge Tomorrow. That's instructions, brother.
Yeah, I don't want any part of that one, but
Based on the graphic novel, All You Need Is Kill.
I like Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anthony, Daniel Day-Lewis and Madeline Stowe star in what James Fenimore Cooper adaptation?
Man, what the
Lot
fuck?
of-
You got the two hardest questions.
A lot of
in the
names.
Yeah, why am I... What the fuck? Can we go back to the other trivia? Wait, so it was...
Daniel Day-Lewis and Madeline Stowe.
In what adaptation?
James Fenimore Cooper.
My Left Foot.
It's The Last of the Mohicans.
That was my first guess, but I was like,
You pulled a me and you
I didn't know
second-guessed.
that was an adaptation. So, well, you know what?
I thought they meant adaptation. That Spike movie.
It's a good movie. Tone. Who plays T.E. Lawrence in Lawrence of Arabia?
Ooh, that I don't know.
You can do this. You got this.
I've seen the first hour of this gargantuan movie.
It's a watch, we'll say. It is one of the movies of all time,
Yeah,
as far as watching
I'm gonna do
enjoyment.
like 1 hour of it every year for the next 4 years.
Well, I feel like an incomplete list of Tim Curry movies because I got no clue.
You take a guess. Who would play somebody named T.E. Lawrence in your mind? If you were
I'm
casting.
picturing the dude from the Ten Commandments, but I don't know his name. So, I don't know. I got nothing.
You got nothing?
You want to take a guess, John?
Yeah, is it Heston?
It is not. It is Peter O'Toole.
Peter O'Toole.
Fuck, I know that name. Well, bummer. All right, cool. So it's making it sound as easy as we thought.
Yeah.
So John's got
Two.
All right, fuck you. And I got one, and Anthony's got zip, and we're moving into drama musicals. John, who is Don Vito Corleone's father in The Godfather Part 2?
Oh, fuck. Is it asking for the name or the actor?
I don't know.
What is Don
Is that
Vito
that?
Corleone's... Who is Don Vito Corleone's father in The Godfather Part 2?
Is that the
I
actor?
think that's the actor. Let me look it up real quick.
Okay. But in the meantime, I think I'm still not going to get this.
No, it is the... Wait.
It's the character?
Yeah, it is the character, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what it's talking about.
Michael?
That is incorrect. It is Antonio Andolini.
It's
It's been a long time
it's
since
in
in
the,
part 2.
Flashbacks of him when he's younger.
As old Bobby De Niro.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people have been using as an example of why do we keep de-aging actors instead of just recasting like we did in the old days for younger versions. And they were like, we would have gotten the amazing... who's the guy? The guy you love. The guy from the Scorsese's. Robert De Niro. We wouldn't have gotten the fantastic De Niro performance as a young Marlon Brando. Because nowadays they would have just de-aged Marlon Brando for the second movie.
It's also really sad. Like, if you look at, like, the person who played, like, the de-aged version of Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian, he looks more like young Mark Hamill than de-aging Mark Hamill did.
Yeah.
Weird.
I've been hearing people saying jokes that somebody, probably Quarter Crew, needs to do like a deep fake of the guy who played Han Solo in the Solo movie.
Mm-hmm. Ehrenreich?
Yeah, Alden Ehrenreich. Yeah,
Yeah.
they need to put him in the de-aged scenes from the new Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Anthony,
Tangent.
why must Leonard tattoo notes on himself and take Polaroids in Memento?
Because he has either retrograde or anterograde amnesia. I'm not sure which one. I always forget.
You're fine. He can't retain new memories is the answer. But basically what you said just spelled out.
Gave me bonus points, so I'm at 2. Tone. What movie features Colin Firth as the stuttering King of England?
The King's Speech.
It is indeed the King's Speech. The movie that notoriously beat out The Social Network at the Oscars.
Yeah, that was a good movie. Went to the
Oscars,
theater to
Social
see it.
Network.
Full of old people.
I'm sure.
That was pretty funny. Anyway, John and I are sitting at 2. Anthony's got 1. You little cheater. And we're moving into horror sci-fi.
Ooh, better not be any mistakes here.
John, what 80s movie sees Jeff Bridges being abducted into the digital world of computer games?
You blowing dust over here?
Yeah, pretty much.
The dust off of the arcade cabinets in the movie Tron.
Ron, that is correct, sir. Good job.
What's up, T-Ron?
I feel so. This one's asking about a tagline. It says, "What 1975 film has the tagline, 'You'll never go in the water again'?"
Jars?
It is Jars.
What was your reservation?
Oh, I was gonna just read the tagline and have him guess because he didn't need the 1975 slam dunk
Oh.
easy.
See if I got
shit.
confused if it was one of the sequels.
No, I don't think it would win.
Right on.
And I have not touched water since seeing that movie as a child.
No, won't drink it.
What?
Tone.
What did you do at your Jaws-themed birthday party?
Kept my toesies on dry land. No,
guys
that's not
having
true.
fun?
Yeah, that's not true. I was one of 2 people who got in the pool and watched the movie that way. Tone, for your horror sci-fi question. True or false? The last shot in Inception is of a spinning top.
That is true.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it kind of is. I mean, technically, the last shot is black.
Anyway, John's sitting at 3. I'm sitting at 3, and Anthony's got 2. And we're going back to comedy and animation. John in Jojo Rabbit, who is Jojo's imaginary friend?
Adolf Hitler.
That is correct.
Anthony, what actor gets the girl in There's Something About Mary?
Ben Stiller.
Is indeed Ben Stiller.
Nice.
I need to rewatch that. It's been a long time. I watched it so many times when I was younger, but I feel like I would like it even more now.
Yeah, I feel like the Farley brothers had like a few good movies, and that's one of them.
Yeah, and I really liked Kingpin. I obviously love Dumb and Dumber, so need to rewatch it. Now they're directing separately, and they're doing like serious shit. One of them did Green Book.
Yeah, and won an Oscar.
Yeah, super weird.
Super fucking weird.
Tone, who plays the Grink in Ron Howard's How the Grink Stole Christmas?
Jim Carrey.
Jimothy
Jim
Carrey.
Carrey.
I said-
Speaking of Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, have you seen that video where he's explaining how awful it was to be in a suit? And so they had like a Navy SEAL come in and teach him how to like stay calm.
like how to
And so he would say like, distract yourself with pain if you can, and then smoke. And so he said that he had just like a long ass cigarette.
Oh yeah, because he was
and
covered
would
in
just go
yak hair, so yeah.
It was pretty funny to help like with his anxiety of being in that like crazy claustrophobic suit.
Yeah, I can't imagine like how hot that must have been. It's just uncomfortable.
It really makes the scenes where he's just like devolving into madness just so much more real.
Yeah, and they don't like take the lazy way out in pretty much any of that movie of putting him like in clothing, like it is to not have him. He's just naked most of the time.
Right on.
Poncho
All right.
out.
So John, you got 4. I got 4. And Anthony, you got 3 now.
Yep.
Sweet. And we're going back to animation or action adventure. During what war is Lawrence of Arabia set? That's funny, huh?
Yeah,
Starring
this game is
Peter O'Toole.
this game is just like the other one.
And we picked randomly from the stack.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Some mind freak shit.
You
You ever had your mind freaked?
gonna say the.
Have you or someone you know ever had their mind freaked? Have you been the victim of a rogue mind freak?
You might deserve legal action.
The Franco-Prussian War?
World War One.
Ah, whatever. Yeah. Anthony, name the first actress to play Laura Croft.
It like in movies?
In a Tomb Raider movie.
Angelina Jolie.
It is indeed Angelina
had
Jolie.
I mean, I still think she's gorgeous, but I obviously had a massive crush on her when that movie came out. I hadn't seen her in anything else before that, and I was like, ooh, the whole
Yeah.
the mask wolf tongue falling out. Tone, what prompts Jonathan Wick's first rampage?
People kill his dog.
They killed his fucking dog. Yep, you're correct.
Oh, you kill his dog?
It's a dumb move. You should do that.
All right, great. So I got 5. Whoa, you got 4?
And then
He's got 4.
Oh shit!
Tight game.
Coming at you from behind.
In
You broke him.
Don't get too excited.
drama musical. You still owe me ones. John Margaret Hamilton was which witch in The Wizard of Oz?
Which witch in the witch?
Margaret Hamilton.
Oh, Maggie Ham.
Oh, Maggie Ham. This person who's probably dead. Cool.
I didn't speak ill of her.
They used to say Maggie Ham's got the gams.
The Ham Gams.
Oh, do I want to say Glenda or do I want to say the Wicked Witch of the West?
I thought you said West.
I'm going to go with the Wicked Witch of the West.
That is correct. Good job. She played just the 2 feet.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Did you see that Mr. Rogers like had her on his show like out of makeup and everything because she had complained about how terrible it was that kids were afraid of her in public, and so he like brought her on and did a whole thing about like, see, she's just a regular kind lady.
If something comes out that he was secretly like a piece of shit or something, I think I'm gonna just give up on humanity because I feel like he is the nicest dude.
Yeah, he's just one of those people like Rod Serling, where I'm just like, I just think that you were a really good person, and you don't see a lot of those in history, so let's keep it that way.
Yeah. Right on, bud.
Anthony, what film stars a plant named Audrey 2?
Wow.
Little Shop of Horrors and The Little Shop of Horrors.
This one says Little Shop of Horrors, but we'll take both.
Little Shop. Tone. What 70s film has Robert Redford and Paul Newman playing a pair of grifters?
Oh.
This might be the one that trips you up.
Who are the actors?
Hootenanny.
Robert Redford and Paul Newman of Newman's Own. Dude's given a lot of money to charity from his salad dressing and stuff. It's pretty cool.
I don't. The Odd Couple. I don't know.
Ooh, so close. The Sting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. I've never seen it, but
So now we are all tied at 5?
We're all tied at 5.
Fuck yeah. All right.
Tied 5.
We're moving into horror sci-fi. Of course, it comes down to horror and sci-fi.
Yeah.
John, for your 6th point, who plays Storm in X-Men? It gives you a list of people here, and I'm not going to give them to you.
So is it one Halle Berry?
Yep. Sure, yes.
Yeah, Halle Berry.
It has Jennifer Lawrence, Olivia Wilde, or Halle Berry.
you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning?
The same thing that happens to everything.
Even as a kid with no concept of good or bad
Like-
movies or writing,
like-
I was like, that sucked.
Like, fuck,
that was
that's
dumb.
awful. Maybe this is the one reason why AI should write a movie instead.
Nope, don't put that out there.
Don't put that out there, man.
Anthony, which Cenobite leader is the primary antagonist in the Hellraiser franchise?
It's Pinhead.
It is indeed Pinhead.
Nice job.
Tone. What are the Navy SEALs searching for in the Abyss?
When you started off with Navy SEALs, I thought this was a joke question.
Yeah, what are the loose seals searching for in the Abyss?
What are loose SEALs balls?
They are they searching for a? Well, initially, right? It's a change.
How
They're
well
searching
do
for.
you remember Christmas time?
No, I remember the movie. But okay, so initially, aren't they searching for another submarine, like another party?
Yep, I'll give it to you. That's
And-
close enough.
What do you mean? What is it?
It's a
say?
certain type of submarine. Do you know?
Is it a nuclear submarine?
Yeah, it's a nuclear submarine.
Oh, I don't
There
you're
go.
good.
I was going to give it to you anyway.
know. Okay, cool. Wow. All right.
So
well,
does
we all
that tie
done.
us all up?
Yep.
Yep.
That always happens when we do the easier trivia. It's just like, oh, turns out we're all somewhat smart.
We're pretty
when it comes to movies.
knowledgeable.
Cool.
That was fun, though. I like getting a little bit out of the horror sci-fi, which has kind of been the theme of this entire season, has been how are ways that we could sneakily get other things into the season that tangentially relate. And in this case,
How
you
can
get one category
make
that's
the
horror
decision
sci-fi.
to watch Princess Mononoke?
Does that not count?
I mean, it counts enough.
They had this puzzle at Barnes & Noble today, and it was the wolf mother, like with her crazy grin, and then the princess with a dagger, and her face is covered in blood. And I was like, I want to have this.
Yeah.
And then when you're done with the puzzle, it has pieces to turn it into like a canvas. So it like bends back and everything. And I was like, that's super dope. But that was like
is-
$35. And I was like, eh.
That is awesome.
But yeah, like without context, just a wolf and a bloody faced girl. It would be pretty rad.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. All right on. Well, that's going to wrap it up for trivia. I hope you enjoyed that. We're going to take a little break, and then we will get started with our main discussion of the anime Belle.
Join the Creep Cult. $5 a month at patreon.com/Porcelain Peak for exclusive content, merch discounts, and more. Join the Creep Cult. $5 a month at patreon.com/Porcelain Peak for exclusive content, merch discounts, and more.
Hey, you want to see something really scary?
Welcome back. We are wrapping up anime, talking about the 2021, according to this, anime movie Belle. So it might have been released here in 2022. Anyway, the literal translation, which makes a lot of sense, is called The Dragon and the Freckled Princess, which I thought was really interesting. And I had subtitles on even for the English. Mm-hmm. And they, in the subtitles, instead of saying the beat, like when he's talking, it says dragon.
Oh, that's cool.
Which makes sense.
Dragon's not across your face.
This one's directed and written by Mamoru Hosoda.
Good job.
All right.
I wasn't going to help you out this time.
Yeah. You want to hit us with the starring?
Yeah, so typically what I've been doing is the Japanese cast for this. I watched it in English.
Yeah,
I
so
think we
did
all
I.
did.
Oh, yeah, I
so I'll
watched
just
it
go
in
through the
English
English cast since that's how we watched it.
Okay.
But for Suzu/Belle, it's Kylie McNeil. For the Dragon / the Beast, it's Paul Castro Jr. Tomo/Angel is Bentley Griffin. Suzu's father is Ben Lepley. And a bunch of other people. The only other two that I really want to highlight is Ruka Watanabe is voiced by Hunter Schafer. She is from Euphoria, and this was her first role. And then just
who is she in Euphoria?
Rue's best friend. I forget the character's name.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then Justin is voiced by Chase Crawford, who plays the Deep in The Boys.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which one was Justin in this movie?
The leader of the Justices.
Okay.
I'm
Superhero
gonna
guy.
show off who you are. Blah, 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 blah.
I'm gonna wreck it.
Yeah, so fitting role for him.
Yeah. So basically, the plot of this movie is Ready Player One-esque, like virtual reality.
This game is another you.
Yeah. It's,
yeah.
So you log into you is what it's called, the letter. And when you get in there, it creates an avatar based on your biometrics, what they call them ASs, which I'm guessing like is alternate self or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it's supposed to be like a truer you to some degree, right?
Like it takes your inner essence. And
Yeah.
like, basically how in the Matrix where Neo has like his projected self
Yeah.
that has hair and doesn't have ports and shit all over him. So vibes of that. I mean, the biggest vibe that I got just because I used to watch the show was Sword Art Online.
Yeah.
Also an anime, also about people who go into a virtual world and live out their lives in a virtual world. But yeah, also very Ready Player One.
Yeah, so the shy girl, Souza, goes in. She becomes Belle because I guess her name means Belle. And she sings there and becomes instantly famous. And then along the way, there's a dragon character, a beast, if you will. And he interrupts one of her concerts, right? And then he's apparently been wreaking havoc around this universe. And people are trying to stop him, but she ends up kind of falling for him to some degree.
Yeah, so the underlying inspiration for this is Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
Which we mentioned last week, both the original story by Jean-Marie Le Prince de Beaumont, and also the 1991 Disney animated film. What I didn't know until reading about this today is that the movie was animated in collaboration with Jin Kim, who is a South Korean animator who has worked or did work for Walt Disney from 1995 to 2016 and has worked on like pretty much everything from Hercules up to I think like Encanto most recently. But and also was the first Korean animator to work at Disney.
Right on.
And so has like obviously since this is riffing on Disney's Beauty and the Beast, it's cool that they had an actual animator from Disney helping.
They stole
work on
them from
this.
the inside.
But yeah, it kind of does Beauty and the Beast, but then also is telling a bit of a lot of its own story and
a couple of surrounding tragic stories.
Yeah, and then I think the biggest difference between this and the things that we've watched previously is that this employs a ton of computer animation and enhancement,
and you can tell.
And and I think a lot of modern anime, pretty much all modern anime does that, mostly for environments and stuff. I remember when I was a kid, the first time I saw it and went, whoa, what the fuck is going on, was Pokemon. Like one of the newer seasons of Pokemon when I was a kid suddenly had CG environments and the anime characters around it, and I was like, what is this? But yeah, in this, I think a lot of it is pushed further intentionally because it is a digital world.
Right.
It's a virtual world. But I did want to ask you guys how you felt about that, because I think for me, it removes me from the enjoyment. I understand that computer animation takes a shit ton of work and is an art form in itself.
Like animated stuff is still done on a computer, right? Like none of this is paper, right?
Yeah, I don't know if any of this is. I mean, it's definitely not hand drawn in the way that Princess Mononoke and hand painted. And that's the thing where I'm like, yeah, this is gorgeous. I want to say right off the bat that this movie is fucking incredible looking. But I was having a hard time in my head deciding like, okay, but is something like Mononoke in my head more gorgeous and amazing because I know that it's all hand drawn and hand painted? And or is that unfair for me to say because I don't know as much about the process of visual effects. I know it takes a lot of work and artistry and talent, and so is that devaluing the work of the VFX artists who worked on this by saying that it kind of removed me a little bit from my enjoyment of some of the scenes? Like there are scenes later in the movie where they're crashing into buildings and there's glass exploding out, and I would have loved to have seen that hand drawn and hand painted, and instead we get just CG glass, flying all over the place. And sometimes it's a little bit jarring seeing characters who are anime characters, but they almost seem to be dropped into close to photorealistic environments with how the computer generation looked. But that's me ranting. I asked you guys how you felt about it.
For me, so I mean, I can find the clear cut where I really enjoyed a lot of this movie visually and where I maybe checked out more, which is the separation between real life and you. In you, I couldn't have cared less. There were some cool visual things that they did, but for whatever reason, it just like the concept of all of that, like this like pretty packaged and realized like environment and everything, it all kind of felt like it'd been done before, just in this particular case without using like properties. I mean, like obviously something like a Ready Player One does the exact same thing, just with properties.
Yeah,
and
not that that was any better.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like it's the same concept to me, and I felt like I checked out more during those portions, and I was able to pick up the little parts and pieces that I need to make sure that those surrounding stories made more sense, and I found those super impactful.
Yeah, and I think also I kept really feeling like I was watching video game cutscenes, specifically like Nintendo video game cutscenes, specifically Zelda cutscenes, like Breath of the Wild. Some of the way, like taking the kind of anime aesthetic and then making it 3D. That's how a lot of this felt, where I was like, not necessarily in the way things look in the environments and everything, because this doesn't look anything like, Breath of the Wild, but just in the way the characters looked in you. which is also just a very confusing thing to call this, because there are multiple scenes where people are talking about you as the virtual world, but then also referring to the character as you. And so and people keep saying in you and stuff like that. And it's just very like kind of goofy and confusing. And I kind of wish that they had just done, but I get that's the bit, is that like, it's you. Like, you know, it's like the show You. There was that whole news thing where the guy was trying to reference the show, and the newscast, the woman like had no idea what he was talking about. So she was like, what me? What did I do? And he's like, no, you, the show You. Yeah.
I felt it, and I think the disconnection for me is that this is almost too perfect. And I think that's part of why I like the hand stuff. Because the hand drawn and the hand painted animation, because it's not perfect. And like on the computer, if you're drawing certain things, like you can get with a shape or whatever you want perfect.
Well, I mean, it's the same as in real life. Like, hand stuff is better in person, not over
I mean,
a computer.
I think it's also, hand stuff is not perfect. There are always things maybe you would prefer more.
But like, you watch Mononoke, and it's like you can see the imperfection. It's a little bit grainy. It's kind of like why we watch the old movies, because we like a little bit of that.
Yeah,
why you put movies in black and white instead, because you like a little bit of it.
I love the animation where you can see. It's almost like you can see the pencil marks. Like, you feel like you can see the process.
And so this, again, gorgeous, just like you said, but it's like perfect, and the color's perfect. And so I'm like, that to me pulls me out, same a little bit, like you were saying.
The components in You almost, I mean, in the world of You, felt almost like AI generated in a way.
Yeah,
like, because everything's
all of the little characters felt like NFTs.
Yeah, very weird and like uncanny, but like you said, everything is like really round edges and like it's all perfectly drawn, quote unquote.
What's a drawn?
But you're right. The real world stuff I thought was like the execution there, the blend to me worked so much better. Like, there were some scenes where I was just like jaw on the floor with how gorgeous the sky looked, and the water, especially in this. Like, anytime they have water, yes, it's computer generated, but it just works really well. Like that crystal clear blue, and I was like just like staring through the water at the rocks that were hand drawn or close, you know, some hand technique. And
the secret hand technique.
The amount of effort still blew me away. But
right.
Yeah, I think it was just the world of You is just like a big mishmash of color, and because there's no weight to anything, everybody's flying, so it's just like it's hard to really get any sort of.
And they don't super explain how that all works, because like people are able to sit and have a conversation, but then also control their avatars. And so I was like, whatever. Like, I'll suspend the disbelief. But I think also, like what you were saying, John, I not liked the outside surrounding stories, but I thought that those were more interesting, and I wanted to explore more of those avenues, like the relationship with Suzu is it Suzu? Suzu and her father, and everything that she's dealing with. And then we get this brief clip of her best friend, or her old best friend, like being the one to pull her back from jumping in the water. And then they don't really like talk about it. And I was like, let's explore these relationships. Yeah. That's really what I want.
So that's that. Overall, I will say I really liked this movie.
Yeah. I
don't think that it really is on par with most of the other movies that we've talked about this month. But it hit me on an emotional level, especially in the last like half hour, really strong. Like, I was weeping in that last like half hour at some of the really dramatic elements that they bring in. I think though that my main problem with this was that it's too much plot that they're trying to juggle, because it doesn't put enough time into the Beauty and the Beast storyline. So to me, like in the original Beauty and the Beast, which I was like, okay, fine, riff on that and do something different. I don't want to just watch anime Beauty and the Beast.
I would have just watched Beauty and the Beast.
Exactly. And you get those scenes where like they very much just replicate the ballroom scene,
right,
and have them fly around and just, so there's that. But you never really get any reasoning behind why there's this attachment between Belle and the Beast, like why she's so obsessed with finding out who he is and all that stuff, besides maybe she just like has an inkling that he is troubled and cares about him, and they talk later about how like she just cares about everyone and wants to take care of people. But unlike in the original Beauty and the Beast, you don't really get any sort of like buildup of their relationship. It seems to just randomly feel like it needs to hit the iconic scenes of the original animated movie of him going like, no, leave me alone, don't look at me. And then later the wolf attack that he saves her from in the original is now the hero guys coming and attacking, and he saves her. So you get those same beats, but it doesn't play out because they don't give it enough time. And also you have all of this, in my opinion, like you said, more interesting stuff happening in the real world about Suzu and her relationship with her dad and the loss of her mother and the stuff going on, how it's affecting her school life and her relationships with people.
And yeah, I mean, she's got the friend, she's got the popular girl that is like, seems kind of down to earth, but then there's all that
Out
like,
here playing the damn saxophone and
teen
shit.
drama going on, but it didn't feel like that. Like, it didn't feel like an episode of Riverdale or something. Like, it felt like these are kind of realistic situations for these kids to be in.
Yeah.
In the real world. What kind of pulled me out, though, is that when Suzu okay, is going to the kid's house, she like gets on the train, and all these adults are like, we'll take you to the train station. I'm like, you're just going to let a little girl go stop somebody from an abusive father? Like,
Fair,
that seems...
they could have gone along, but you also have to remember that this is the culture of Japan where kids just go do shit.
That just seemed crazy. I was
It does seem crazy.
You just watch him beat his kids, and you're gonna be like, okay, you go take care of it. Like, I felt like it should have been
got this.
I mean, I know dramatically that scene was super fucking impactful, but logistically, it doesn't.
Ooh,
make sense.
I mean, we've elapsed of the spoilers section of this a long time ago.
We're in
but
spoiler territory.
Yeah, so
I thought that he was gonna kill her at the end when he pulls away and there's like part of her skin and like
Yeah.
she's bleeding. I thought he was gonna flat out kill her.
Yeah, I mean, that was very intense. Like when he's just screaming in the rain and he's got his fist raised. And
yeah, so the movie dives into like the loss of a parent and trauma around that, but then it also deals with parental abuse.
Yeah, so the way
and
they
domestic abuse.
subvert the typical Beauty and the Beast story is like you kind of spend the whole time thinking she's going to find out that the Beast is maybe like the guy she has a crush on.
Right,
or
that's
the
what
guy
I
who-
thought.
The guy who rows the boats, who I, the entire movie, thought it really sounded like they were calling him Cum Machine. I think it's like Cum Machine. But yeah, it's every time like, you mean Cum Machine? Cum Machine? And I was like,
That was your nickname in high school, right?
Commission.
Yeah, Commission. Yeah, I was just like, it really sounds like you're calling him Cum Machine. And if that's, I mean, good for him, but...
Cool name, brother.
No, I completely forgot. Oh, so you think that it's going to be revealed that it's... And then I even thought like, oh, maybe it's going to be Ruku or whatever, the friend.
I thought
the
they were
girlfriend.
watching that video of the two kids, and that was an old video, and that was Kamashine, or no, that it was what the like jock guy,
Yeah.
and then his little brother was the guy in the canoe.
Oh,
And that's
yeah.
what I thought was happening for a second, and I was like, oh no, this is live. But I was like that because he's like, oh, I'm waiting for him to finish practice. So at one point I thought that they were related.
That's what I thought too. But I guess they're just friends. But
But that would have made sense to me if that was the case. Then it was revealed like, hey,
yeah, and I think like up
papa.
until we get the reveal of what's going on with the Beast, I wasn't really sure how on board with the movie I was. Like I kind of felt like this is gorgeous to look at, but I don't really care about anything that's happening. Like I get that the main character is traumatized, dealing with PTSD. That's very emotional. But it was hard for me to latch onto her because she spends the entire movie doing the like shy girl, like, oh my god, just like crying constantly
and then
running away
offset-
from situations.
And then offset by being huge pop idol diva.
And I was like, I get that. Always bothers me, the whole idea of like somebody shows up and does a thing that like a million other people do on the internet, which is sing, and for some reason she just happens to like instantly become like the most famous thing in the world.
It's because she has Attack on Titan face.
But in my head, I was just like, okay, well, people go viral all the time, so that's whatever. Like she went viral. But and I also do think that the music is great.
I looked up to see if it's on Apple Music, and it is.
Yeah,
it's just like by Belle.
Yeah, and I was like, that's another thing that'll really take me out of a musical movie is if the songs suck. And I thought that all of the songs were very emotional in this. Like they were getting me welling up with tears before we even got to the big heavy stuff. But yeah, they we finally get the reveal that, because there's this thing where the Beast has these bruises on his back, these like markings, and because the world of you takes your essence, everybody thinks like, oh, he must have real scars and bruises or something going on in real life. And so there's this whole thing where they think it might be this famous baseball player, and then he reveals that he has some scarring from surgeries, but it's not him, and she thinks it's a bunch of different other people, and she's suspicious of all of them. And then we find out that it's at first I was like, oh, it's this little kid. That's kind of weird and creepy because she's had like a thing with him throughout the movie. But we find out that this little kid who we've seen in these live streams throughout the movie, it turns out that he is being abused. We see in an earlier clip that they lost their mother, and now their father is trying to take care of these two boys. And we find out that what looked innocent on that news report, he's actually abusing them, and that it's the older brother who has been taking the brunt of all of this abuse, and it has made him very tough. And that's what has made the Beast character. And I knew it was going to be something where, you know, obviously it reflects how you feel on the inside, and he obviously feels like he's some sort of monster because he's constantly being abused and doesn't feel like he can protect his brother. And as soon as it got to that, I just like broke down. I was like, that is so fucked up and sad. So I thought that was a really, really smart and interesting twist on the Beauty and the Beast thing. And then just like the adults calling and finding out, oh, we can't do anything for 48 hours. And they're like, what the fuck? Like, what if something happens between them? And so,
what's the point of your existence?
And that shit happens in real life.
100%.
Yeah. It's like, oh, can you do a wellness check? Oh, we'll do it at some point. And then the person gets murdered in the meantime. And it's just like, yeah. So she ends up having to go to, what is it, Tokyo? Or and I like, they do, what's that game where you go through Google Maps and you try to figure out where you are? Yeah, they play a little game of that to figure out, like, you know, enhance.
GeoGuessr.
Yeah, and they're like, enhance, and they figure out, oh, it's between, he lives in the World Trade Center. We gotta save him.
Tell me that didn't cross your mind, though.
What's the fucking movie? The one with Robert Pattinson?
Remember Me.
That one, yeah.
Oh, don't bring that
like in the final 2 minutes of that movie, it like zooms out and he's in the World Trade Center.
That show is hella sad.
And David Spade is the voice of the plane. What? That's from it's a Family Guy joke where Peter is like trying to ruin James Woods' life. So he's like making a 9/11 movie where David Spade voices the planes.
Anyway, yeah. So I mean, some of the big themes of this movie are, you know, obviously grieving and dealing with loss, also trying to find your voice, so to speak, you know, your personal self and that self-growth, and then, you know, surviving domestic abuse and kind of trying to stand up and fight. So heavy fucking stuff.
Yeah, I mean, right within the first 5 minutes of the movie, when you get the flashback to the mom going to save the kid and then the girl just like, you know, breaking down and crying on the beach, I was already crying at that part. And then later when you realize that like she's come to realize that, you know, her mom did the selfless thing and wanted to help this person and sacrificed her life to do it, and she kind of is like, well, I'm gonna do the same thing, like I'm gonna go out and you know, and then you get that really emotional text conversation with her dad where he talks about like, hey, you're a kind person who has empathy and you put yourself in others' shoes and know how they feel, so go help this person, like go, because that's what your mom would have wanted you to do. And that made me very emotional. And just that whole scene when she sees the kid in the street and they run up to each other and then the dad comes out, I was like, I did not expect this like colorful bubblegum virtual reality movie to get this dark and serious. But I mean, a lot of anime is just like, you know, it blows me away with how emotionally resonant it can be in the storytelling. And yeah, so I loved all of that stuff. I think just it's too long. It's too long, and really, you could have done the Beauty and the Beast thing, or you could have done this. There's some stuff that, you know, who am I to tell people how to make gorgeous anime movies? But I think it could have been simplified so that it had a little bit more impact, and we didn't spend so much time jumping back and forth.
We think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I think that there's too much fat in the middle that could have been trimmed. I think that there. I'm right there, right now, brother. But we spend too much time in you, not enough time on the other. Fuck this movie. I just cashed it out. It was okay.
Yeah.
No, I.
That's your breakup line, right? I've spent too much time in you.
I think that they spend too much time in the virtual reality world and not enough time in the real world, because the real world is where all of the
Don't
interesting.
we all?
Yeah, fair.
Fuck.
But all of the
That's deep, bro.
all of the real world stuff is where the the exciting parts are, the action parts are. Because I mean, it's all fucking video game characters. If I wanted to watch video game characters, I'd watch like Twitch, or I'd play a video game myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's super fair.
Yeah, I mean, really, I was expecting this to just be like a visual feast that didn't have a lot going on, like substance plot-wise, and I was genuinely impressed that it actually did have a moving plot that, had too much going on, but at the end of the day, still really affected me.
Agreed.
You know, it gets deep in you.
Yeah, it does.
It stays there, you know?
Yeah, but overall, I mean, I thought it was, middling to good. But not my favorite from the month.
Oh
I'm
no,
glad
I mean, it's Princess Mononoke by a fucking mile.
Yeah, I am glad. I mean, this at least had an uplifting ending and a positive message. And while it got very dark and emotional in places, I'm glad we didn't end on anime on something like Perfect Blue.
Yeah.
Like, at least that technically has an optimistic ending at the very last 2 seconds.
It had a positive message, but it couldn't get it out.
So yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, but overall I would say very successful anime. I'm very glad that we did this. Like I said, I ended up going and watching Paprika, and it's reawakened my interest in checking out some more anime movies that I haven't seen. I know the guy who did Akira has like a even more horror themed anthology movie called Memories that came out around the same time that I really want to check out. That's like about an abandoned, kind of like a Dead Space abandoned space station, and there's like anthology horror stuff happening.
Interessante.
That sounds fantastic. Yeah, and for me being a person that hasn't really had a chance to experience this type of movie, I thought it was fun. I thought it was rad, and I loved Mononoke, so I definitely want to check out more myself.
Well, and I mean, obviously, a good indication that you weren't completely turned off of anime by this was that you were the one that added the movie we're going to be talking about. One of the movies we're going to be talking about in next week's episode, which is also an animated anime film. But
we want to transition into that.
Well, I did want to say, kind of a little bit of a full circle thing is that the director of this movie was inspired to start making movies by Studio Ghibli. And I Googled it. That is how you're supposed to pronounce it. Ghibli. And it means hot wind, because the idea was that Studio Ghibli would be a hot wind through the industry, like of change, basically.
Hey, we better
Very
start calling
Japanese.
Tone Ghibli, though. The way you crack a hot wind.
That's so true. It's happening right now.
But yeah, he was inspired by that, and he actually was supposed to direct Howl's Moving Castle, but he had creative differences with Miyazaki, so he ended up dropping out, but he has worked on some other Ghibli stuff, and
That's awesome.
yeah, so a little bit of connective tissue. But yeah, let's talk about what we are going to be doing for the next couple months.
Yes, for June and July, we are going back to camp.
Yeah.
Going
Right.
back to camp.
So, if you're not familiar, we
Camp.
did Friday the 13th, then we did Space Camp, then we did Creature Camp, and this season, we are doing Apocalypse Camp.
The Campocalypse.
There we go, yes. Thanks, fellas.
We're canceling the Campocalypse. No,
So we're doing end of the world disaster movies. So some of these are gonna fall into the horror sci-fi realm. Some of them kind of thrillers, but all in the genre of apocalypse.
and like a typical camp that will be June and July.
Yeah.
So it's
All
almost
summer
It's going to take us
long.
almost all the way through the rest of the show.
Yeah.
It's gonna be crazy. So some of the movies we're gonna be talking about are, how do you say it?
Nausicaa.
Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, and
Another Miyazaki
When the
film.
Wind Blows. We're going to be talking about Wall-E and Nine. We're going to talk about The Last Man on Earth and I Am Legend, Reign of Fire and Waterworld, Armageddon, and
Deep
Deep
Impact.
Impact.
12 Monkeys and Stalker.
Yeah, The Road and Children of Men, the 28 days or the 28s.
Not Sandra Bullock's 28 days, but 28 days later and 28 weeks later.
Yeah, no, Sandra Bullock. Oh, not Sandra Bullock.
And Day After Tomorrow and Night of the Comet.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna be doing for the next 2 months.
Yeah, and so to kind of organically transition out of anime into Campocalypse, I think the plan is for next week to be Nausicaa and When the Wind Blows, both
Yep.
animated films. So
With
join
a
us
little
for
bit
that.
of David Bowie sprinkled in.
A little bit of Bowie.
So that's what we're doing. Check that out. Stay tuned for that. And if you haven't already, please check out our bonus episode over on Patreon. This week we talked about Maniac, and next week we're talking about
Nosferatu the Vampire.
yeah,
The Vampire.
I'm super
Vampire
excited
Jakowski.
about this because I've never seen it.
Neither have I.
All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks for checking this episode out. I've been Tone.
I've been John.
And I've been going fucking beast mode all day in you. Because I'm the internet daddy. Anthony.
Hated it. John, sign off.
Hated it so much.
Yeah, for
Keep
the
it
rest of the
creepy.
show, I'm just going to figure out ways I can make you the most uncomfortable with my sign off. So,
God, keep it creepy,
there you
but
go.
not that kind of creepy.